Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? It's Wednesday, so you guys know what time it is. It is Wilson Wednesday. Last one of the season. Could be the last one ever. Doesn't seem like that's the way things are headed right now, but it's definitely on the table. We got a long off season in front of us. Things can change back, change again, back and forth 100 million times between now and the start of the 2022 season, so we don't know where we're going to land, but this will be the last Wilson Wednesday of 2021, or the 2021 season. And this has been one of the more interesting weekly series that I've done. And I think that it is illuminating in some areas. So I understand that there's people's minds are on other things right now. I understand that we got an interesting update from ESPN a little earlier about what might be happening to Carroll's role within the team, even if he does stay. I will be talking about that in the near future. Hopefully, we get some ironclad clarification soon, but for the moment, it's all just speculation, so that discussion is coming. But let's just go into Wilson Wednesday, see where we stand, see what we can learn, and hopefully, if we decide to run it back in 2022, we can see where things need to continue to trend in that direction. So, air yards per pass attempt. I was very critical of Wilson this year for having a high air yards per pass attempt number when this year was supposed to be about maybe going the other way, when it didn't seem like it was working very well for him. And that holds 9.9. It went up a little bit after that Cardinals game. He took quite a few shot plays in that game, and it added up. Now, I don't think he played badly against the Cardinals necessarily. The main mistake he made was those two plays. You take out those two plays, and he had a hell of a game. But overall this year, the air yards were not where I was hoping they would be. They were considerably higher than the previous 3 years, which to me, either Shane Waldron is the complete opposite of what we thought we were getting, or Wilson didn't fully integrate himself into the new offense. So to me, 9.9 air yards per pass attempt tells me something is really wrong with this process. At some point, something got messed up. Now, obviously, Pete Carroll's kind of at the head of all that, but at the same time, I understand that Russell Wilson's not a puppet. Doesn't have someone's hand up his butt telling him to throw the ball 50 yards down the field. So that's a concern. And the thing that really kind of makes me scratch my head is that his air yards per pass completion wasn't that high. So the passes he was actually completing were the more moderate to shorter passes. Like he had a considerably higher air yards per pass completion in 2018 and 2019, which tells you, or tells me anyway, that the passes that he was actually hitting were not the deep passes. Like if you take a look in 2018, where he had 9 air yards per attempt and 7.4 per completion, that tells you that he was hitting a very high percentage of his shot plays. But for his air yards per pass attempt to go up by almost a yard, and his air yards per pass completion to go down by 3/4 of a yard, that tells you that he's taking more shot plays with less success. And that is probably the main thing that we need to focus on in 2022. If he comes back in 2022, and right now I suspect that he will, that is something that needs to go the other way. Because even if you're a fan of a big play offense, which I certainly can be, don't get me wrong, at the end of the day, I just want something that produces. But for his air yards per pass attempt to go way up and air yards per completion to be a little below average, I think, over the last, if you take a look at the 3 previous years as a collective, that tells me that he's taking more shot plays and he's not hitting them. Yards after the catch per pass completion was at about 5.3, which is a little higher than it was the previous 3 years, and that's, I guess, good. This puts him more in line with the other quarterbacks in this league who are considered to be elite. So I want to see it go up a little bit more. I think it will go up a little bit more if he gets another year in this offense. But it's a step in the right direction, so I guess that part is cool. It again kind of goes to show you that the passes he's actually hitting are the shorter passes. The shot plays, the success rate is not what it's been in the past. Bad throws, he ends up with 72 on the year. His bad throw percentage is 18.6, which is a little higher than it's been the last couple years, but I put a lot of that on the finger. I think the finger really messed him up in terms of accuracy. On target throws had just shy of 300, 76.5%. So a tiny bit lower than it was the last 2 years, but again, I think the accuracy issues he had this year were mostly to do with the finger. And when I say issues, we're picking nits here, right? It's very minor stuff. I'm not worried about it. Pocket time. His pocket time went up a little bit after this Cardinals game to 2.4 seconds. It's still better than it was the last 3 years by a little bit, which, hey, that's good. And if you look at AWS's time to throw stat, it's pretty good. It's like 0.2 seconds lower than it was last year. So that's pretty much in line with this. So that does tell you that Wilson is not just camping in the pocket the way he was last year and waiting for something to happen. He is moving around a little bit better than he was last year. He is, on the whole, getting rid of the ball a little bit faster than he was last year. Now, despite that, his air yards are still way up here, which is not what I expected at all. You'd expect those numbers to kind of move in synchronicity with each other. But that's a sign that things are starting to trend the right way. I like this. I'd like to see it go down to 2.3 or 2.2 next year. But there is reason to believe. And if we do decide to run it back, I want to highlight something here to indicate things might be, maybe brighter days are coming. He ends up getting sacked 33 times on the year. Even with the games he missed, this is a big step in the right direction. Had he played the full game against the Rams, the full Saints, Jaguars, and Steelers games, he probably would have been sacked around 40 times, which is a big improvement over previous years. He was hurried a grand total of 48 times, which is a nice step in the right direction from the previous 3 years. And he was hit 42 times, which is a nice improvement over 2020 at the very least, and probably 2019 as well. Overall, Russell Wilson was pressured 123 times in 2021. Even if you account for the fact that he missed basically 3.5 games, he is getting pressured just a little bit less. The pressured percentage has fallen the last 3 years, and, well, now with this year, it's been the last 4. Barely, granted. It's down by 0.2%. But this tells me that we might have something if we choose to redo things in 2021. You have to remember that this year we had a very old left tackle. I know he didn't play badly overall, but he didn't play the way we expect him to play, Dwayne Brown. So if we can get a better left tackle, a more dependable left tackle in 2022, if we can upgrade a little bit at center, if Jake Curhan is better or at least as good as Brandon Shell at pass blocking, you might have something here. And maybe we can get that number down to like 23, 22, and then he would be playing the way that the other elite quarterbacks in the league play in terms of dealing with pressure. Finally, he had 23 scrambles, which is less than the previous 3 years by a lot. It's roughly in line with 2018 if you account for the games he missed, but even still, it's still a little less. And he ended up with 102 play action attempts, which I'd like to see that number higher. I'm not going to lie. But if you account for the fact that he didn't have as many pass attempts as he did, it's in the ballpark, I guess. So I would like to see this number go way up in 2022. And if we have a better running game, like the running game we've had the last month plus, it's possible. So we're still waiting for confirmation on what the offseason plan is going to be. if we decide to move on from Pete, if we decide to move on from John. And if we do those things, we got to bring people in, and they got to decide what do they want to do with with Wilson. What do they want to do with Wagner? What do they want to do with Reed and Sidney Jones and this guy and that guy? But if we do decide to run this back, at least offensively, which is looking like the way we're leaning right now, it seems to me that you're going to bring back most of the offensive players. You're going to bring back Waldron. You're going to bring back Pete. This is the part that I get encouraged on. Wilson was getting rid of the ball a little bit faster this year. Now, he was still going for more downfield throws, which I think is something that needs to be worked on next year. But this is the part that should encourage you. The offensive line, has it really gotten better over the last 4 years? I don't know. Maybe in 2019 it was kind of bad. It seems like maybe there is something going on here, because I don't know if this is just the offensive line playing better. This offensive line, sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Overall this year, I think it's left a decent chunk to be desired. So the fact that Wilson is getting pressured a little bit less than he has previously, the fact that he's getting sacked less than he has previously, tells me there is something to build on here. I don't know if it's going to work, but I can see where it can work. And that's it for Russell Wilson Wednesday this season. Let me know what you think, guys. The way I see it, there's some stuff here to like, there's some stuff here to not like. And at the end of the day, another year in this offense should help Wilson out a lot. It should produce better results. Hopefully it's allowed to happen if we decide to go that way, because what I'm kind of worried about here is if we switch up this offense again and keep the same players. I think that would be a bad idea unless you have some super money in the bank hire you can make of somebody who you just know is going to be able to come in and kick ass. And that's hard to do. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.